part about it is you guys get to actually be here to have the awards handed out and to meet the juror, Craig, and he can talk about the show. So we're all good. So Craig, come on over. Here he is hiding in the background. So thank you so much for doing this. So he is a professor at VCU, and Meredith had a class with you, which was so fun because she is the one that suggested, why don't you call Craig? And I was like, oh my God, what a great idea. He is also a patron of the arts and has bought numerous pieces from us. So thank you for doing that as well. As we say, he puts his money where his mouth is. That's right. And buys art. So we're going to just take a couple minutes and he's going to talk about the show, as an overview, but he's also going to talk about, because he said, I think this was really good. He said, wow, to see these on the screen and on the computer screen, and then to see them live in person. And, I said, well, this is my art form, is taking what you have juried and mosaicing it together so it makes some sense, rhyme, or reason, and colors flow. And people are like, oh yeah, that was perfect to put those two together back there. So that's what I get to do, is my mosaics in creating the show. So thank you for giving me great pieces to work with. That was the fun part. So I'm just going to turn the mic over to you and just talk about the show in general, and then we'll actually hone in on the awards, and we'll go from there.
Excellent.
And you almost have to eat that mic.
All right. Well, thank you, Jenny, and thanks to everyone involved with Crossroads Art Centers, all of the exhibiting artists, those who are here for this exhibition. But I know, one of the special things about Crossroads is the sort of family atmosphere that exists here, and that's certainly one thing that has drawn me to Crossroads, and something that I really appreciate. I mean, it really is a hidden gem. So I'm very much honored to have been invited and to be a part of tonight's programming. And as Jenny said, part of the challenge as a juror with tonight's program was approaching it from a distance. As a curator, as a juror, how do you approach making a judgment from a distance? And of course, we had to do that based on a couple of different factors with COVID and everything else that is going on. And, it's really wonderful that we can physically be here together tonight. And so I look at this exhibition and the bringing together of this works, the works in the gallery tonight, as a really, positive transition. Because when we think about the arts, and I approach it certainly from the point of view of a teacher, you've got to be in front of the real physical deal, right? You've got to be engaged with the makers. And so it's really important that we can be here together tonight to do this. And so in thinking about the way that I approached the submissions for this exhibition, it was in thinking about that kind of future trajectory, right? Okay, what are artists dealing with? What are creators and makers dealing with over the past year? And what are their objectives going forward? What are the goals? What are all the aspirations that we have in the arts in terms of, not only inspiring ourselves and trying to, maintain some sort of sanity in an awkward year, but also knowing that we were on the cusp of being able to gather, right? I mean, the idea of an art opening, an exhibition, and a gallery is a physical thing. There's no doubt about that. And so when I looked at the submissions for tonight's exhibition, I wanted to approach things that could speak to that element of engagement in this gallery space. And that's really what motivated and drove the choices and selections that I made this evening. Even though there wasn't a specific theme or structure, or it was sort of an open all media show. And that's a wonderful thing. But individually, I sort of motivated myself towards, how can we use this to drive ourselves towards this, basically reopening. So it's really wonderful to be here and to see that And in fact, we've achieved some of those things tonight.
Yeah, I know. It is awesome. Yeah, I'm so happy that we could do this. It was like we were all like, do we think we can do May? Do we think we can do May? So I'm so happy that we can. So with that said, let's start with the awards then. I'm gonna unclip this. So we're gonna start with first place with the 2D, which is Beverly Ulrich, and that piece is right over there. And I know Beverly's here. There she is. I'll let you talk a little bit about that piece.
Well, I have to admit that, on top of the things that I've already said about my approach to tonight's programming, with the lack of being able to physically get into the space to engage with artists directly, I really fell back on my own art historical background. And when I saw this piece, I instantly thought of the sort of artistic traditions. What I saw was Michelangelo's Sistine ceiling. I saw the hands reaching out and touching. What I saw was this, something that exhibited both an abstraction, but simultaneously reacted to a long-standing history in the visual arts. And it really is just absolutely captivating on a multiple elements, because there is an element of three-dimensionality there. There's this impasto, this built-up layering that's both physical but also very visual. And it just really arrested my gaze immediately. And so congratulations. It really is a wonderful piece and very deserving of the first place award.
No.
So the second place in the 2D cityscape, and likewise, this was almost if I was looking at the freedom and abstraction in the first place, but then looking at the structure in the second place, that cityscape, and I really did get the sense of, and I am very much responding to this element of sort of a distance so much. It's almost like looking at a city, the sort of, think about looking at a map of Richmond and that topography and the streets laid out in this grid and sort of rising up and looking down from the bird's eye view. It is this very much sort of removed visualization of a community. But at the same time, the liveliness that is captured through the elemental format of color, again, very arresting. And I have to admit, I really struggled between first place and second place because of this sort of play between the freedom of the brushstrokes versus the more controlled. Wonderful piece, very much drawn to it. And speaks really very much to the actual namesake for it, cityscape. I mean, it very much reminds me of that sort of structure of a city.
Congratulations, Lee.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And third place.
Oh, yes. Okay. Third place. I was absolutely captivated by our third place winner, Kristen Severin. It's difficult to judge because we had to deal with this element of having to coordinate with the art from a distance. But I could tell immediately that the technical skill here and the application of the printing of ink on paper really took a great deal of skill. But beyond just the level of skill, the ability to capture a composition which was thoughtful and provoking, and enticed a great deal, of just interest. I found my eye just, repeatedly going over the surface of this image, which, on first glance is something that seems quite mundane, and it almost looks like, well, those are weeds that I want to go out and just hack off in my backyard. But no, wait a minute, don't hack them down. This is actually something quite beautiful. And on top of that, the technical skill required by the artist to pull this together is something worth noting. So very much deserving of an award tonight. And we congratulate Christy. Very, very well deserved.
It looks like we have some budding artists too. That's awesome. That's always good. We love to encourage that, definitely. All right, then we will head over to some 3D. Get down to the first place. This one was just amazing. This one caught all of us. This one really caught all of us when it came in. And when we were looking at it, I'm like, does that look like what we think it's going to look like when it comes in? So it was perfect. And I know Wendy's here. So this is just amazing. It's this piece right here. So I'll let you take it away.
Well, I will be perfectly honest. When I first viewed this piece, my childhood came back. I instantly thought of Tim Burton. I'm thinking of the magical worlds created in the three-dimensional, and the play on the flatness of the geometry with the perception of the illusion of incredible depth of space. And, just looking at it, even if you're looking at just a facsimile or a digital image of it, you get that sense of motion and movement and liveliness. And instantly when I saw this, I knew this was the commanding piece in the 3D works. And, on top of it, it's just so lovable, right? It really is. I mean, there is this sense of, my goodness, what is the story here? But at the same time, it's just so approachable, and it's non-confrontational, and I want to know more. And that in of itself drove me to that deserves accolades for first place in the 3D category. Congratulations.
And we have the second place is David Bushman, and David's is right there. No, wait, that's a different one. Oh, it's back in the corner, so I'll hold this up. It's back on the back wall. Yeah.
And with David's work, likewise, I was drawn to the absolute technical skill required of this piece. And the fact that there is not just one material here. There's two different materials going on. And what I really love about this particular piece, the beechwood, is that there's a delicate balance that artists must strike, at least that I have always found, between making their hand recognizable, their touch recognizable, versus trying to make it appear as though they haven't touched it at all, as if it just landed here in front of us, right? Without question. What a delicate balance that he has struck between this hand of the artist and something that has just magically appeared in front of us as if it were just bud out of nature without question. And so again, very deserving of some sort of recognition. And again, it was much like the 2D and the 3D category. I really did struggle between what is deserving of a first place and what is deserving of a second place. And after a lot of thought and going back and forth between a few things, Absolutely, David's piece is a wonderful piece, and I am very proud to recognize it in the second place category in the 3D.
Thank you. And I think David is actually out of town, so I will make sure he gets his award and the money, honey. All right, and then we have Charles for the third place, which is right behind you, gentlemen. It's actually, yep, that piece right underneath the eagle. There you go.
Rushdie. And again, this is one. This is another where, you know, it was almost, I have to admit, not to get on the same nostalgic views of Tim Burton. Again, it was just sort of this, invention of this, anatomical, biological form, but at the same time, that's very alien, but also it's sort of, where does the artist hand stop? And where does the natural form take hold? I found this puzzle really quite intriguing. And I will totally admit, I'm going to be completely honest here, that on first view, so what I did is I sat down and I just went through everything. I absorbed everything. I took notes. And then I went back for 2 or 3 more passes. And I will admit, on first and even second review, this is not one that I pulled out, but it was one that really kind of got its hooks into me, literally. And I found myself continuing to come back to it, and it really did grab my attention in terms of, what is the artist trying to do here? And I wrestled with this idea of where does the found object and the artist's hand meet? And I have to say, I haven't quite figured that out yet. And it's what is so mesmerizing about this piece. I continue to be drawn to it. And it is this kind of conjoining of abnormal and normal forms all in one that is just so enticing. And I had to come back and say, this absolutely is deserving of some recognition. And so I'm very proud to offer and award him the third place prize in the 3D category.
I'm not sure if Thomas is here. There he is. There he is. Thank you. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the interesting thing, when I saw this piece and then I saw the eagle, the photography piece, I knew those had to be paired together because the wings reminded me of the wings in Charles's piece as well. So that's my craziness that happens. So let's go on to photography, which is right there.
Yeah.
Yes,
it is
right
just
here.
Not, the picture is just not giving it justice, though, for Kevin.
Kevin O'Farrell, first place. And this is, one of the few instances where I was reviewing the submissions and was just immediately drawn to the piece. And, I will say probably a big part of it was the abnormality that COVID has presented to us. I find myself living in a landscape that is alien. And when I looked at this piece, what I saw was an alien environment that very much reminded me of the 12 months that we have been living in that had been quite alien. But on top of it, understanding that this is a manipulated photograph. And again, thinking of myself, thinking of my art historical background and sort of, what I do in the classroom, thinking back to the surrealists and Salvador Dali and Alfred Hitchcock and all of these wonderfully dark but enticing places, right? It is at the same time foreboding but inviting. And I could not stop looking at it. It is this world that I'm afraid of, but I very much want to visit and know more about. And it was without doubt first place in the photography division. So congratulations to Kevin.
Kevin here. second place is Darren Franta. And Darren's is actually around the corner as well. So I will hold this up, but it's amazing.
So I will say likewise, this was one where I saw the landscape and was immediately drawn to it, but it was quite clear that, this is a legitimate landscape. I mean, I could technically get on an airplane and go visit this place, right? I could physically go there and engage with it. But it takes, I don't know if you've had the same experience as I have, but you try to go to a natural site and you want to get a photograph of it, and the photograph never does the Grand Canyon justice, right? It never does. Why do I even waste my time trying to take a photograph of this majestic natural landscape? It takes a real artist to pull this off. It takes an eye. It takes training. It takes familiarity with compositional skills, color theory to pull this off. I was absolutely blown away by the technical skill required to not only capture the scene, but to know how to crop and present it so that it drew me into this landscape, a landscape that I have never visited, but I absolutely want to visit and that I want to put on my travel list once it is safe to do so. So congratulations to Darren, a beautiful, beautiful photograph.
And I know Darren's not here tonight, but I will hold on to this for him. But Tom Hennessy is here tonight. We've got his right there.
Tom's piece, Lily of the Valley, and anytime you're presented with a position where you have to be the judge, of course you bring in your own predilections, your own sort of taste, and I, when I saw this piece, one of my grandmother's favorite plants is Lily of the Valley. I have a very fondness for that plant. But despite that, looking at this image, I mean, this is one of those where, this is Hercules battling the Nemean lion, right? You've all seen that statue. We've got an example of it at the BMFA, and here's this, brute Hercules, and he's got the lion on top of him that he's got to fight. And it is that the capturing in a single composition that is both strength, but also weakness simultaneously, right? It is that element of something that shows the musculature element of this plant, but also we know that it's this delicate thing that's easily just squashed, and it exists in this finite amount of time, right? There's this peak moment where these little blooms, these delicate blooms, present themselves, and the ability of the photographer here, of Tom, to be able to capture this moment, this balance between the strength but also the fragility simultaneously, really spoke to me. And so congratulations. I mean, on top of that, just the technical proficiency needed to do this. So congratulations, Tom. Very well deserved.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, this has been wonderful. A round of applause for our jurors. Yay. I love it when our jurors like to speak and tell us what they choose and share their knowledge of art with us. So thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's fun. It really is.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all the artists that came out and participated and went through the process. July show is the member show. You can join and be a member. I'm not sure how many pieces we're going to have. We're going to do the call for entries online again, but I'm going to pick at least 100 to maybe 120. I think we can get in both spaces, so we may be able to get them all. I may just have to pick and choose, but hopefully we can get them all because we've got tall walls. So it may just have to do a little salon hanging. that's where my art form comes in, is how to put that patchwork mosaic quilt together. So congratulations to everybody who made it into the show. Congratulations to the winners. Thank you for sharing your love for your art form that you do with the rest of us. And thank you for being part of Crossroads Art Center. And we will have this talk has been filmed live on Facebook. So you will be able to go back to Facebook and just listen and listen and listen again. So you have been captured. So thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you.